Hello everyone, welcome back to Garden Fever. This is Corey Lefevre. Today I got a really important episode for you. Why is soil so important? Why do I think that soil is the most important thing when it comes to gardening? I mean, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of important little factors that come into play when it comes to growing plants, but soil is the most important. At least I feel that. I know gardening sometimes is subjective, but in my opinion and my advice to everybody is to put that one at the top. And in order to answer that, why is it so important, I need to explain to you what it is. So soil is the upper layer of earth that plants grow in. So a lot of people think that is the mass. That's not really what soil is. Soil is one of the most misunderstood words. Soil is a mixture of organic matter, gases, liquid, and like microorganisms. It's a combination of all those things that create an environment that is what we call soil. And that's why it's so often misunderstood and misused. Even I've been guilty so many times of calling something soil when in fact it really wasn't. So what is the difference between, let's say, dirt and soil? Dirt is dead topsoil, dead soil. It's just rocks and minerals and sand and clay and things like that, where mud is dirt that is wet. So why is it so important? Why is soil one of the most important things? Because all plants do better if it has a good start in soil. For example, watering the plant is important. The sun is important, but they're not. I wouldn't rate them as the most important, because a plant that has good soil can resist heat waves better, can resist insects better, can resist drought better. They just do better. Trust me, everyone, when I say that a plant with good soil will do better all around. Doesn't mean that they're invincible. They still have limitations, but if you grow a plant in bad soil and a plant in good soil right next to each other and submit them to the same circumstances, the one with good soil will do better, I guarantee it. It helps resist the sun, it helps resist all the other important things that come with plants that you need to know to grow them, will all fare better if you have good soil to start with. Good topsoil, very important. What soil does is it creates a medium for plants to grow in. So it's not just a thing, it's a combination of things that when brought together create an environment that is really conducive for plants to grow in. That's what soil is. So the stuff you buy at the store isn't really soil. It's just a collection of materials that, when introduced to your topsoil, help create this environment. And so we often misuse this word because of those reasons. So how do you get good soil? I guess that's an obvious next question. Well, in order to get good soil, you have to create the environment where all the living organisms and all the factors which I stated before will create that good soil. So you want to cover it. You want to have good drainage. You want living organisms, and you want a source of matter, or a source of food, basically, for the soil, which I find, in my opinion, from Garden Fever to you, the best way to do that is with compost. And there's a reason why, because there is a difference between compost and fertilizer. And I don't think all beginner gardeners really understand this. And maybe even some seasoned ones may not know the difference. Not really. See, compost is a bunch of organic compostable materials, such as leaves and banana peels and various things, eggshells and stuff like that, coffee grounds, and you mix them up and it creates a nutrient-rich source of food for the topsoil, a fertilizer. It does two things. It serves two purposes, and this is why I love compost so much. One is it fertilizes the plants that you're planting. Two, it feeds the topsoil, which is, in my opinion, the most important thing. You need to constantly be returning the energy back to the topsoil. You want good, thick, black, nutrient-rich topsoil. That is the most important thing. And I think compost is the best way to do that. Why did I not say fertilizers? Because fertilizers are specified. Now, I think there's a little bit of a taboo that has come with fertilizers, where fertilizers are automatically thought of as chemicals and they're bad for your garden. That's not necessarily the case. There's a lot of organic fertilizers. Even compost itself is a type of fertilizer. What makes it compost versus fertilizer is fertilizer tends to be a couple of things specified for a specific plant. So for example, if you're growing tomatoes, farmers often fertilize the soil in the strip that they're doing tomatoes that are specified for tomatoes. This is a fertilizer, and they tend to do that every year. Why I choose compost over fertilizer is because you're doing both. You're feeding the soil and you're fertilizing your plants. Yes, fertilizers, when you want to use fertilizers, when you're struggling with a plant, a specific plant. You know, let's say you're getting blossom end rot from peppers, and peppers only. Other plants grow in the same soil just fine, but peppers only. That's when you want to try a fertilizer that is specific for that plant. But I think almost always, if I keep my soil and my topsoil well composted, it always does better. So in order to make good soil, you need a combination of things. One, you need basically dirt. You need some sort of mineral source such as sand and clay and various things like that. Then you need organic matter, broken down organic matter. Yard debris is a perfect example of this. Leaves, fall leaves, you know, things like that. Things that you compost, stuff like that. You want to, it has to have a layer or a supply of matter to feed or to condition the microorganisms in the topsoil. And with that, you need those organisms. So those organisms, in order to live there, they need stuff to eat, and that's what that is. It also needs water, and not water that sits there, not water that just dries up immediately. They need water that can get it wet and then slowly dry, and then get it wet, slowly dry. And this process is most conducive for making soil. See, humans don't make it, the organisms and the combination of these things do. With that being said, it also needs, the topsoil needs a cover. It needs a shelter from the sun and from the elements, so that the water doesn't just erode and the sun doesn't just fry with radiation the microorganisms. So you need a cover. And that's why I always kind of grin my teeth a little bit when I see huge fields just plowed and exposed to the sun, and then we take like a row of seeds and flood that, you know, and then just leave it exposed to the sun. You're killing all the topsoil all around the plants. Now you may get that one plant to grow, but it's horrible for the topsoil in general, and that's why a lot of farmers have to fertilize every year and have to they're constantly trailing behind this, because they're killing it before it even gets a chance to really set in and give the microorganisms a chance to build good soil. It needs a living root. It needs plants. That's the important things of weeds. A lot of people don't understand that, is it provides roots, and roots break up the soil. They do a lot for the soil. See, there's so much going on underneath the ground as well as above the ground. We tend to focus on what's above, but really what below is important. Like, share, subscribe, and comment. Till next time.